about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening, afternoon, whichever we are, and welcome to our latest live stream. I'm joined this evening by Craig and Anna. Managed to point in the right direction for a change. My name's Duncan, and we've got a range of activities for you this evening on the subject of whether sociology is a science. Now, we've got in the chat window, we have got the Mog who says, how the heck would I know? Well, hopefully, after 30 minutes or so of activities, you'll take a view, one way or the other, as to whether sociology may or may not be a science. So, we've got a range of activities. We'll get straight on with them. I think if you are watching live, you're very welcome to join in the live chat window with those activities. Sometimes it'll just be typing in A, B, C, or D. Sometimes we might be asking for a little bit more than that. And as we go through, we'll discuss some of these features of this debate, really, as to whether sociology could be considered scientific or not. Okay. We've got from Abishan, is it a social science but not science like physics or chemistry? That is definitely one of the features of this debate. I'm sure that will come up in the discussion. So watch this space for the answer to that question. Okay. Okay, so first up, we've got something called a bubble quiz. Craig, do you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in the bubble quiz, we have a number of correct answers between 0 and 4. Obviously, today we're looking at this debate of whether sociology can or should be seen as being science. But this also incorporates other elements of the sociology course, things like values and value freedom as well. So our first question here is looking at how values could influence sociological research. The idea would be is that values are left outside of scientific inquiry. But which of these might influence sociological research? Now, again, it can be between 0 and 4 correct answers. So we have methodological preference, the methods that a researcher chooses, their theoretical perspective, are they Marxist, feminist, functionalist, interactionist, postmodernist, the funding body, that is who pays for the research, who commissions the research in the first place, and the sociologist's career. Which of those could influence sociological research? Lots of people
So,
are straight away going for B, the theoretical perspective.
so remember
That
with
is
this,
one of the
it's
correct.
yeah. I was going to say, remember this one, it's not a straightforward multiple choice question. There might be more than one right answer, but as Craig has just said, you are right. B is correct, but maybe more than
Definitely
B.
definitely one of the correct answers there, because of course your theoretical perspective is going to alter the way in which you look at the world, and therefore also the way you conduct your research. We've also got D and A coming in, and both of those are correct as well. Sociologist's career, depending on where they are in their career. If they're an early career sociologist, for example, they may be less likely to have a choice over what they do. Whereas if they're later in their career, they may be more likely to influence the research, both the choice and the methodology. And A, methodological preference, of course, different methods can be used, and therefore that will influence the values that you are used. Okay, so let's look at our right answers. The only one that didn't get mentioned
Funding body is also.
is funding body, is also true as well. If we think about funding bodies, well, if you think about, say, for example, research into environmental change, if that research is conducted by businesses, for example, energy companies, they may come up with a very different conclusion, or they may have a very different influence on the research than, say, if it was conducted by an environmental group. So obviously, things like if we think about research into shale gas, fracking, then obviously sort of like if you're a business, sort of like Esso or Shell or one of the big energy companies, there may be an ulterior motive in you saying whether fracking is good or bad. Whereas if you're an environmental group, they may be more likely to sort of like err on the side of the environment. And of course, those values can influence research and mean that the research isn't truly scientific. Let's look at question number 2. Which of the following are part of Merton's kudos norms? I'm trying to get Merton, and kudos all mixed up in my mouth there. Which of the following are part of Merton's? I've done it again. Merton's kudos norms. You may have come across this if you were doing sociology. If you were doing beliefs, ideology, and science as part of your beliefs in society. You can also use Merton's ideas in this sociology as a science debate, because as a functionalist, he discussed what features science should have to be scientific and whether sociology has those. So disinterestedness, credibility, universality, and objectivity. Which of the following are part of Merton's kudos norms?
So to help us out, each of the letters in kudos is it's an acronym, so they all stand for something. So there is something starting with a C, something starting with a U, something starting with a D, something starting with an O, and something starting with an S. Could be some of these words, but it might not be.
Have you got the correct word? Again, it can be between 0 and 4 correct answers.
You might decide that none of these are in our kudos norms. You might decide they all are.
It is a tough one. I think if you've done beliefs in society and you've done science, ideology, and religion, it's more likely to come up there. Some people may cover it in with the theory and methods part as well of year 13 when they talk about the contributions of Merton to functionalism. But it can be used in the sociology as a science debate. Let's reveal the answers.
Okay, here we go.
Our 2 correct answers are disinterestedness and universality. The idea that researchers shouldn't be doing it for individual prestige in terms of disinterestedness. They're doing it for the knowledge that is gained from science. Universality means that it doesn't matter on your reputation. It doesn't matter as long as you've conducted it using the correct methodology, that we should look at these concepts. The other two that aren't there, it's not credibility, it is communism. We had a little debate about this afternoon because if you read some like the US texts, they talk about it as being communalism as opposed to communism. Obviously, because in the US, communism has some very weighted concerns about it. Obviously, it's far too linked in with communism. Yeah, so they didn't like to use that. So they used communalism. But Merton actually did use the phrase communism, which is quite brave considering he's writing it in the 1940s and there was a period of McCarthyism going on there. But you do see it referred to in some science textbooks as communalism or communality. And the other one is actually OS. It's actually organized skepticism rather than objectivity. And this is the idea that we continually challenge what we see in the sciences through things like peer review.
So obviously by communism, he didn't mean like, sort of Lenin or whatever.
Yeah.
It was the idea that it's a collective effort is science, and that people work together. And you peer review and you add, it's a cumulative thing over time. And it's not it's not an individual pursuit.
And that it should be free to access for all.
Yeah.
Which is, I've seen a few articles recently talking about sort of like how Merton's kudos norms are the sciences generally, and research generally has moved away from Merton's kudos norms because of the interests of capitalism in terms of sort of like putting things behind paywalls so that we can't all access this information. Question number 3.
Bear with me a second. I've lost my... Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay, so which of these methods are more likely to be seen as scientific? Is it participant observations, lab experiments, field experiments, or unstructured interviews? Which of these are more likely to be seen as scientific? Because this is another thing you can do in this sociology as a science debate is use some of the different methods that sociologists use. And when they do use these, they do follow scientific principles. So which
one
of those methods...
One of these should be nice and clear, I should think. What is the main method that scientists use when they're conducting their research? So,
particularly if you're a psychologist. Psychologists like to use these a lot, don't they?
So I feel we should be reasonably confident with B. Somewhat was it Abhishan at the start asked, different from like physics and chemistry and things, but in physics and chemistry we do lab experiments, don't we? And
Abhishan's gone CDA. 2 of those are correct. No, one of those is correct. One of those is correct, yeah. Alongside lab experiment, it's field experiment, yeah. Participant observations, because they are participant, they usually tend to end up influencing the behaviour of others, so therefore they're seen as being less scientific. And unstructured interviews as well, because they're difficult to repeat, because the researcher is asking up follow-up questions based upon the responses they receive, means that they may lack reliability in the sociological sense, not the psychological sense, because other people will say that. So lab experiments and field experiments, because they both manipulate variables and they're both quantitative methods as well, which means that they're really useful for proving science.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the unstructured interviews, they produce a lot of qualitative data, which isn't going to be what science. Those who see sociology as science are particularly after. They're wanting their quantitative data. Okay,
that's right. Yeah. Which of the following sociologists suggested sociology could be a science? Okay, so Comte, Marx, Becker, or Durkheim. Which of those suggested sociology can be a science and should be studied, or society should be studied scientifically? If you know your founding fathers or founders of sociology, well, actually, all of these are male.
They are all. I was going to say they are all fathers, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay, so Zainab's going with A. Comte is correct. Comte Definitely is one. Right. Comte, one of the earliest positivists. Might give you a little bit of a nudge there. Anybody else done positivist research or research that is used by positivist, or cited as positivist?
I'd say Comte is the most how should we put it? One where there's the least debate, that they would definitely say sociology was scientific. They
Yeah.
yeah, that was there. So that is the best of the right answers, if you like.
The other two, there are two more correct answers there, are Marx and Durkheim. You may be surprised with Marx in terms of scientific inquiry. He believed that sociology should be sociology could be a science and it should be studied scientifically. However, like most Marxists, is very skeptical of the institutions that run science. Durkheim, of course, as well, sort of quite famously, his study on suicide is seen as being held up by positivists as being a way in which we can study society because we can observe social facts. Question number 5. Which sociological perspectives are skeptical of the role of science? May have given at least one answer away there. And the fact that we've mentioned positivism might also help you with another answer to narrow that down. Positivists, postmodernists, Marxists, or feminists? Which of these may be skeptical of the role of science? It's a bit of a tough one, but you could get these. Yeah. Olivia's coming with D and B. D and B are correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another one.
And the other one is the one that you just gave away.
You did mention, yeah. Zainab and Sophie sort of like coming in as well there with B. Yeah, postmodernists sort of like would see science as being a meta-narrative and that we should actually look to more micro approaches to understand sort of like the way society is organised in today. Feminists, of course, see science as being maelstrom and based on male, obviously it's basically men studying men. It's very male dominated and science, forgot the word I'm looking for here. So like science kind of underplays the achievements of women, even within the scientific fields. And of course, Marxists are very skeptical of it because science serves capitalism. Okay, we should pass over to Anna.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. That was too quick. Okay, this one might be a little bit easier. 60-second challenge. You've got definitions on one side and you need to, key terms on one side, definitions jumbled on the other side. So 60 seconds to try and match up A to F with the correct options from 1 to 6. So yeah, you can just write, for example, A1 or whatever. So let's go.
Some nice dramatic music.
Yeah.
We've got the music back this week.
Yeah, we missed the music, didn't we?
Yeah. When you're away, Duncan, there was no music. Because we finally figured out you're the one who's playing it in the background.
Conducting a full orchestra for this one. If you spot one, put that one in. You don't need to wait till you've got them all.
Yeah, just go for it. Any of them? Any of them you think you've got? 5 seconds left, guys. Let's see some answers. Oh dear, we haven't got any answers.
I'm sure we've got some of these. We'll give you a second or two more.
I thought this was going to be a little bit easier. Let's see. Come on, guys. Anyone want to have a little go? A paradigm. Which definition do you think goes with that one? Oh, so Olivia's gone in with falsification number 4. Right, that will be correct. So we can take number 4 out of the options. What about paradigm?
Olivia had put A before. I don't know if it's a mistyped one. Olivia had put A before and kind of like a hyphen after with this.
Yeah, we didn't see what the option was. Olivia, maybe you want to go back and add your number now for A.
Or give us a different one if not.
And then C, let's have a little think. Value commitment, guys. What could be a logical definition for that one? Anyone?
And we know what objectivity is, don't we? So we can do D.
Yeah.
I'm feeling nice and optimistic. We're going to get a couple more of these before we reveal them.
Just mention social facts as well.
We did just mention social
Yeah.
facts.
But we didn't quite define it. I did mention it.
Mm-hmm. Shall we solve the wall?
Let's
Should we
Sounds good.
show the answers? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Yes,
go.
let's go for it. Oh, Sophie's coming with
Sophie
C6.
pops in with a C6.
And that was correct.
Which is
well
correct.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Very
done.
good. Very
Okay,
good.
so we have paradigm. So A was number 3. Olivia's got in E1 and she's correct there as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We may have a slight delay.
We might. Sorry if we have.
Yeah, there's a tiny delay. But then we did give a little pause. Okay, guys, so yeah, I think so. Paradigm is our framework of scientific laws, concepts, and theories. Anyone want a little bonus? Go for a bonus question then. Anyone want to say who uses that term? Feel free to pop that in there.
That might be in the next.
Yeah.
It might be. I think it's coming up a couple of times. I think it's coming up a couple of times. We can see if they're paying attention then when we get to the next activity. Same with falsification as well. Aim of testing hypotheses to prove them wrong. You might want to start thinking who said that as well, because that's coming up later too. And then empirical evidence, observable evidence in the physical, collected in the physical or social world, and social facts, phenomena that cause events in the social world. So all of these things I think are going to be revisited.
Okay.
In fact, we're going to revisit them right now. In our Chilli quiz, we have three questions to ask you. One's mild, one's spicy, one's hot. Today, I would say the mild and spicy are pretty interchangeable in terms of sort of like, I think, I could have put either question either way, associated with the concept of falsification or associated with the concept of paradigm shifts. Two sociologists or two thinkers, I would describe them as really philosophers, who are often used in the sociology as a science debate, often used. You will have come across their names, certainly. The concept of falsification and the concept of paradigm shifts. One you might not have come across is grounded theory. Now, I'll just try and give a brief explanation of grounded theory. Whereas some scientific methods will take a top-down approach and they will start with a hypothesis and look to prove that, grounded theory works from the bottom up. So it starts to make conclusions after it's gathered evidence. And this is often seen as being a way in which sociology works, as opposed to a science, where a science will come with, we're going to prove that A causes B. Sociology tends to gather evidence and then form conclusions. And there's this idea of grounded theory is associated with two sociologists. So if we know the names, put them on. I think we've got a timer on here.
Oh yeah, we have.
We do have a timer on here and some music, hopefully. The bongos are back. Okay, Olivia, you do have the right answer, but for which one? For a mild or a spicy? Is it for number 1, or is it for number 2, or is it for number 3? Well, number 3 we know is two sociologists. But Karl Popper is the right answer to the mild question. Excellent, well done.
Oh wow, Sophie's come in with wow.
Sophie, you've got them all right. Excellent, well done. Straight away, so clearly my spicy question was not, my hot question was not as hot as I thought it was. Yes, well done, Sophie. Yeah, Karl Popper, although you put proper, but hey, you got them all right. That'd be fine. Karl Popper, yes, did talk about the concept of falsification as being a major feature of science, as Anna has just gone through in the previous activity. The concept of paradigm shifts, going to look at this again in a moment when we talk about how to evaluate and the work of Thomas Kuhn. And Glaser and Strauss talk about grounded theory. Excellent, well done. With the evaluate wheel, we're going to also think about this debate in sociology as a science and how we need to make evaluations throughout it. It could potentially be a 20-mark essay. I'm not going to say too much just in case people have mocks. But it could potentially be, is sociology a science? Or you could get a smaller question on sociology as a science. If you were to get a 20-mark essay on sociology as a science, what you might want to do is evaluate some of the points that you are making and make an explicit evaluation. So in this evaluation, we're going to show you, in this evaluation, we're going to show you a comment that a student is, an argument that a student's put forward and suggested that sociology can't be a science because it doesn't have this dominant paradigm. There is not an accepted body of knowledge in sociology. We often have different perspectives where we have Marxism, functionalism, feminism, interactionism, postmodernism, and many, many others that you may not have come across when you're there. Particularly in contemporary society, we have so many other kind of theories that you will go on to study if you take sociology further. But let's make an evaluation of this idea that sociology can't be a science because there is a dominant paradigm. Let's spin it and see what we are looking for. On our evaluate wheel, we have kind of 5 categories of evaluation: strength, a criticism, an alternative, a limitation, or some evidence to either support or reject the argument that's been put forward. In this instance, we've spun up criticize. So how can we criticize the argument that sociology can't be a science because it doesn't have a dominant paradigm? So we're going to criticize this view. We may want to look at somebody we've just been discussing in the last section. Somebody who may be quite skeptical about science generally. So imagine a student's put forward this argument that sociology can't be scientific because there are too many different ideas. It doesn't have this dominant paradigm, and therefore we can't make judgments based upon this paradigm. What happens in science? Does science have dominant paradigms? Are they always the same? I mean, I could lose count of how many different kind of paradigms that we've had for existence of the universe in kind of like in kind of astrophysics, because it keeps changing, doesn't it? The existence of the universe and how the universe works. What happens is, let's show our evaluation. As soon as we build up a body of knowledge that disproves a paradigm, there is what we call a paradigm shift. So once we've got enough evidence to disprove an existing paradigm, then it shifts. And the argument here is that, well, while sociology doesn't have a dominant paradigm, well, science has paradigms that change on a regular basis. So our body of knowledge and what we understand and know about the world changes dramatically as well. And these paradigms mean that we move from one to the other. So therefore, science isn't even really scientific if we say that it has to have a dominant paradigm.
Got some
and
red
over to Anna.
herrings now. Odd one out.
I was waiting for somebody else to say something then.
Sorry.
Right, so on to red herring round. So 4 items, and 1 is the odd one out. You need to work out which one and why. So what would be the connection between the other 3? So our first one.
Sorry.
We've
No
got
one saw that.
4 keywords here: systematic, measurable, observable, and subjective. Which of those words may be the odd one out and why? See if we've got any.
Sorry about that then. We have another version of red herring where the fish swim, and I'd forgotten this wasn't the
Oh,
swimming one, and so I I thought there was something else happened before the answer. I do apologise.
um,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say systematic.
Oh yeah.
But I'd be completely wrong. But I am going to go out on a limb and say systematic.
Anyone gonna have a go on the chat window? Who thinks Craig's wrong?
Usually I am.
doesn't look like anyone saw your answer, Duncan, does it?
No, I thought people would be straight in.
I was just trying to throw another red herring in by giving the wrong
I
answer.
know.
You see.
It is in fact subjective.
Yeah, and that's because the other three key terms or words are associated with science or scientific method. So science tends to employ systematic methods, looking for measurable evidence and observable facts. Subjective, we would associate more with interpretivism and non-scientific approach to sociological study. Okay, next one. Right, we've got four men, Kuhn, Weber, Popper and Durkheim. Which one of these is not welcome at the party? Let's see.
I tell you what,
Come on,
that'd be
guys.
some
We're not
part.
having any. No one's answering my red herrings.
I don't know what I don't. I'm not quite sure what type of party that would be if those four were at it. Be interesting.
I mean, just to
Interesting
sort of
dinner
help
party, for
us,
example.
although it might not totally help with finding out the connection between the other three, we have mentioned three of those people and not one of them so far.
Yeah,
That might assist.
it might.
You're all
No
gone
one's
quiet
having a
again
go?
now.
Oh,
We always think
Um,
that the ones where you can just type in A, B, C, or D will be the ones where people will have a go.
yeah. Although this is only, I haven't got very many letters to write down.
No, A, B, C, or
But
D.
also, we also have to consider that some people sort of may not have covered that kind of sociology
Yeah,
as a
I know.
science debate
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
yet, because
Yeah.
sort of, like, it's usually one of those debates that's left till quite
Till
late
the
on.
end, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it might be something that's coming up in the next few weeks, and if you sort of like if you
Get a little
in
head
your
start
class, you
here.
can say, yeah,
Yeah. The other thing I'd say is, and this is to try and encourage people to have a go, is there's the right answer that's going to come up on the screen, but there's more than one possible odd one out. You might get a different odd one out for a different reason, and that'd be
Yeah.
interesting
You
too.
might have a different
We'd have fun.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this particular one,
It's Weber because he's not associated with a scientific approach to sociological study, and the other three are. I mean, we could have said that A was the odd one out because the other three will have an E in their name, couldn't we?
we could have.
So yeah,
going-
you're not necessarily wrong if you don't
we
have
could
our
have,
answer.
yeah, we could have said
We
D.
could-
Durkheim was the odd one out, and the other three all, at least to some extent, question the extent to which it's scientific. There's a few ways, there's a few ways you could go with it, aren't there?
Yeah.
So,
we could go in all the way back to one of our very first live streams. Could also sort of like say Weber is the odd one out because he's the only one who has a series of barbecues named after him, which is something I never
true.
knew.
Yeah, I've seen those in home base.
yeah.
Okay, and now we've got some more key terms: subjectivity, paradigm, value freedom, and value commitment. So, what might be the odd one out here? We're going in a different direction now. Where have Olivia and Sophie gone?
I know they were.
I thought they were all over this. Maybe they've gone.
These can be quite challenging. There's two bits in there, trying to work out the odd one out, and then also there's the connection, trying to work out what connects the other three.
I do think that often sort of like sociology as a science is often sort of like one of the harder parts of the course. I mean, before we were writing this, I actually went and listened to the Tutor to You video on sociology as a science and realized it was the only one that I hadn't recorded. You've done that one.
I did.
So I switched it on. And I was like, "Oh, I need to come up with some ideas for this." And I switched it on. And I was like, "Oh, it's Duncan." I completely forgot I hadn't done that one.
And I did go and have a little read of the textbook. I mean, even though I've taught this already, because I normally do it before I do beliefs, so the science bit, they've just done the science bit before we do the beliefs and science. So I did actually teach it in January, but I still had to have a little reread of the textbook before I did my activities.
Yeah, it's one of the bits that's kind of conceptually hardest, I think. In the
Yeah.
yeah, shall we have a look?
Let's have a look. Okay, so it's paradigm. So the other three are associated with the value freedom debate. So this is what comes kind of after our is sociology a science debate, and there is some overlap. You will then debate whether sociology should be and can be value free. And yeah, these terms are the three that are not highlighted are connected with that debate. Okay, so we've got four theories: interpretivism, feminism, positivism, and postmodernism. Which of these might be the odd one out, and why?
Oh, well, I've got an idea. Based on some of what we said early on as well. But
Yeah.
come on, guys, let's have a go.
Yeah, because this has been touched on already. Not quite exactly the same
No.
way, but some of the ideas
Sophie's
have
come
been
in C. Sophie's come in and said C.
Yeah, okay. That's a good shout, Sophie. Do you want to give us an idea of why you think it's C? What might be the connection with the others?
You are right.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very incredibly similar to a question in the bubble quiz, isn't it? I realised that when we were writing these, sort of like you'd written yours first, Anna. I think I've just clearly copied off you.
It's not quite the same, is it? So yeah,
I've clearly copied off you, Anna.
yeah.
Yeah.
Craig's failed this week. Yeah.
This is positivism, and so Sophie was right, and that's because the other three theories disagree with the idea of value freedom and think that that value should influence our research. As Sophie said, because they believe sociology is a science, and the others do not, and that is
that
correct
works too.
as well. Yeah, well done, Sophie.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good.
Okay. Okay, we've got four different methods.
I really should have looked. Yeah, I'm just looking now and going, I really should have looked at your red herring in more depth before I wrote my bubble quiz. We've kind of copied here, haven't we? Well, I've copied.
There wasn't loads, but the thing is, there wasn't loads to go with. There's not loads of content, is there? So
No,
we have to make it
it's
work.
more conceptually tricky than lots of content.
Then content heavy, yeah. So we've got four methods: questionnaire surveys, the comparative method, lab experiments, and participant observation. Which of those might be the odd one out?
Well, we could say that this is a check on your learning.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're checking on your learning from earlier on. But yeah.
If you're paying attention at the start.
If you're paying attention, unlike Craig was when he was writing his part. Yeah.
It's different enough to be a good check.
At least we're all thinking along the same lines, you know.
Yeah. Okay, shall we reveal?
Yeah. I think we know it, really, don't we? Yeah.
Okay, so it is participant observation because the other three methods would be associated with positivism and the positivist approach to doing research. whereas participant observation would be associated with interpretivism.
Okay, we've got the big reveal.
Is this mine as well? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have 5 clues, and the idea is to try and work out the answer before the 5th clue gets revealed. Let's see how we do. So we challenge traditional views of science.
Oh,
Ooh, challenge traditional views. That would hint to me that they do think about science a little bit.
yeah. It doesn't. It's different from saying they dismiss science altogether, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
that might help.
And we disagree that all scientific facts are observable. So by observable, we mean that we can see them. Like, so for example, if we added one chemical to another and it changes colour.
It's interesting because I mean I'm not a scientist, so I always worry that when I start talking about science, I might like reveal my ignorance. But there's particularly with like kind of some of the more theoretical physics and things. There's quite a lot that isn't really empirical,
Observable.
measurable, observable data, isn't there? Really, there's quite a lot that's much more.
Well, things like gravity we can't see, can we? Like,
No, although we can test it, I suppose, can't we? We can test. Yeah, I used to.
yeah.
It's. I think the concept of seeing also includes like data, doesn't it? But see, if that had been flipped around, I would have gone with one specific. I would have gone with sort of if it had been we disagree all scientific facts are observable. I probably would have gone for interpretivism first of all. The fact that they challenge traditional views of science, I think it might be something else.
Ooh.
We identify open and closed systems of science. So we do talk about science, but we make a distinction between different types of science. We don't just throw it all together in one lump.
That's interesting.
Megan has come in with an answer. I think you may be correct.
Well, it's not come up on. Oh yes,
Ooh,
that
okay.
sounds promising to me.
Let's have a look at number 4. We think researching the social world is more similar to science than positivists and interpretivists suggest it is. That's because maybe their idea of science is different.
Yeah, I'm thinking like studying the weather, for example.
Yeah.
Or
Or
earthquakes.
volcanoes or earthquakes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look
We
at
know
number
what's happened. We know what's happened, but we know why it has
model.
happened, but we can't predict.
No, we might be able to make models and things that can give us some ideas, but we can't say exactly what will happen. Therefore, we argue that sociology can be a science. Yeah.
I think Megan got it really.
Was correct. Well
Well
done.
done,
And got it
Megan.
nice and early on. Well done.
You did 3 clues in. That's good. Well done.
Next
Okay,
one.
what's next? I'm a key concept in the debate about whether sociology should be a science.
Oh, that's a bit broad. Could be a lot at the moment, couldn't it? Yeah. Can throw some ideas out in the chat window if you want, but I think we need more.
You might need another clue.
Yeah.
I exist in the social world.
That's still quite broad. Although I think I now might know what it is, but just because although lots of things exist in the social world, it would be an odd way of talking about most things. Like my chair exists in the social world.
It sounds quite philosophical, doesn't it?
It does. It does a little bit.
This is very philosophical for a Wednesday at 20 to 6.
I can be studied in an observable and systematic way.
I'm kind of thinking people like Durkheim and Comte are going to be interested in this kind of thing.
I mean, I thought this was important actually because This key concept was the wording of a 10 marker in 2022, I think, paper,
All right.
Oh
which
yeah, yeah.
set quite a lot of students. So I think the more we can use it and talk about it, the better. Make
Mm,
ourselves familiar and comfortable with it.
a
A
lot
lot
of
of them
people,
panicked. They panicked when they saw it.
I think a lot of people mistook this for official statistics, didn't they? This kind of phrase.
Yeah. Positivists think I can be measured in a quantitative way.
So what is it? What is this thing
I'm
that
thinking
exists?
something
That
along the lines like
exists?
levels of integration, levels of regulation. Am I on the right lines?
Oh, I don't know.
Integration and regulation, famous kind of study, social integration.
Yeah, I can't remember what my
Regulation.
clue is. That might have he might come up in number 5. I can't remember what it is.
Oh, sorry, am I giving it away?
No. So that's
No,
interesting.
no, I
It's,
mean,
we're talking about
we're not getting any answers, are
no.
we? So
We're talking
we
about a
need
thing
some
that
hints.
exists. We're talking about something that can be observed systematically. Something can be measured, counted, and
Ah,
illustrated in Durkheim's study of suicide. I gave a bit of a hint to Durkheim earlier. Shall we have a look? Social
social
facts.
fact. Yeah,
Mm.
and this is a term that you need to be familiar with because it was actually mentioned in an exam question, and it did
Was
throw quite a lot of students. So yeah, you need to get comfy with this kind of terminology.
Yeah. It's important to a kind of positivist approach, isn't it? The idea that what we're studying and measuring and researching are facts rather than just constructs, if you like.
Yeah, and this isn't just relevant to the debate on is sociology science. I mean, also if you're doing experiments and the comparative method, then this would be relevant to that as well. If you were doing an essay on experiments, maybe.
I do remember that year, sort of, because basically social media blew up with things like "I have failed." That is a social fact.
I do remember that now as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were lots of quite funny ones. That's the only one I
Yeah.
can remember off the head, right, top of my head.
Okay, so I believe the scientific method should involve forming hypotheses.
Now, is this a person
Um,
or a particular perspective?
let's see. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that think the
Yeah.
scientific method should involve forming hypotheses. I mean, most scientists, I think, would
Yep.
agree with that. Yeah.
Yep.
I think the scientific method should involve the accumulation of evidence.
Again,
Oh,
all scientists. I'm assuming this is not going to be the
Probably,
answer.
yeah, all scientists everywhere. I think the scientific method should involve prediction.
okay. That
So
kind of
not
gives it a little bit more, doesn't it?
not a realist.
I think it should involve theory formation. Now, we've got to be careful. We're not going to give number 5 away too soon because that is going to be a big clue.
Is that going to suddenly
So,
give it all away?
yeah, let's see if anyone thinks they can get it from these 4 before we give our easy win in number 5.
So can I just check? Because I think I know, but I'm just check. Are we looking for an approach or an individual? Are we looking for
Yeah,
somebody's name or a kind of
person. A
a
person.
specific person? Okay,
All
right.
right, okay. So I was going for an approach there in my
Yeah,
head.
Well, you'll know what I mean when you see number
yeah, yeah,
5.
yeah. That's why I was checking. I was thinking could be like positivists generally or something like that. Couldn't it? No. Yeah. Shall we have a look?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
There, see, that's a bit more of a hint there, isn't it? I believe the scientific method should involve falsification. So who said that, guys? And I know some of you know the answer because we've had
Yep.
this
We did
already.
have it. Yeah. They may not still be with us, but
No. Anyone think they can tell us who is the person that talks about falsification?
it's come
so
through. Megan's come through with Popper.
Well done,
Well
Megan.
done, Megan. Let's have a little look. There we are. There he is. He's
Very
popped up.
good. We've got another
Okay,
little
we're
bit of
going to
evaluation. We're getting towards the end
yeah
now.
for our last activity today. Something we're going to do another value wheel. We're going to show you a statement that a student has made in this sociology as a science debate, and then we're going to get you to evaluate it. So positivists argue that sociology can be scientific as we observe social facts. Yeah.
That's good.
Let's see how we could evaluate this. What is an alternative view? So, what might be an alternative view? What might other sociologists suggest about this, the existence of social facts, or that sociology can be scientific? Now, we've looked at quite a few different approaches who would say, well, it can't be scientific. We might use one of those. We could also evaluate it by saying what is an alternative way of observing social facts. I think it's possibly easier to go with the alternative approach. Which one of our approaches would say, no, we can't do that? All the observations we make are maybe subjective in some way. If we think about some of the approaches that we've discussed that would say sociology cannot be scientific or shouldn't be scientific, I would suggest this one falls probably in the category of shouldn't be. That we shouldn't seek to be scientific. This probably narrows it down a little bit. Well, we could have gone with two. Let's see which one we did go with. Oh, everyone gone there. We could have gone with interpretivist and talking about sort of how actually what we need to do, we need to subjective judgment. However, when we look at postmodernists will say actually our society, because our society is so diverse and is so broken down, we actually need to reject this idea of science as being a meta narrative and embrace multiple perspectives in understanding society. So they would disagree with this idea that we can observe social facts because there is so many different ways in which we can express ourselves, so many different social behaviours that exist that we cannot apply science to it in contemporary society.
Excellent stuff. Okay, I will come back to the studio. For want of a better term, we're back. Thanks very much, guys. Some good answers there. It was good to see quite a few people getting involved. I was going to start mentioning everyone, but I'll miss someone out, so I won't do. But well done for those of you who answered questions and got involved. We are going to have a bit of a break now. Well, we're not having a break really because it's a lot more effort to come around the country to do grade booster workshops than it is to tune in for half an hour on here. So we might see some of you if you're out and about. If we're coming to a cinema near you, come along for one of our grade booster workshops. After that, when we get to Easter, and after Easter, we'll make a concerted effort at doing lots of live streams in the lead up to the exams, and some of those get very busy indeed if previous years are anything to go by, and we look forward to seeing you again at that time. Okay, thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers, both of you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.